Part 8 is the duty of the qualified person. So let's first start off with, what is a qualified person? This is a person trained to perform a specific task and is nominated by the operator, the consignor, or the consignee. Some safety precautions. The qualified person must make sure that the vehicle is correctly parked for loading and offloading. The wheel chokes are in place for heavy vehicles, with a gross vehicle mass equal to or greater than 3,500 kilograms. These are your wheel chokes. Remember, this must be just behind the wheels or in front of the wheels, depending on the slope or where you park. It must not touch the wheel. It must just be before, because if the vehicle rolls a bit once you let go of the brakes, or it has moved ever so slightly when offloading, it can get stuck under the wheel. So, just make sure you leave a little bit of space in between the wheel and the wheel chokes. It must be placed appropriately under the wheels on non-steering axles. Vehicle fire extinguishers must be placed where it does not obstruct the loading or unloading point. Vehicle engines are switched off. The area is safe with barricades and the necessary warning signs. The requisite safety and first aid equipment is provided. This must be provided to you as well, and the load is adequately secured. Qualified person loading requirements. The qualified person must make sure that goods to be loaded are correctly identified, packaged, and labeled. The vehicle is suitable for the current purpose and is clean or fit to load. The exempt quantity compatibility requirements are adhered to. The correct quantity is loaded and complies with the relevant national legislation. The cargo or the product is undamaged and properly secured. The driver has the correct tech card in possession, and the necessary dangerous goods declaration cards or documents are made out for the load and supplied to the driver. So, you can see how you all work together. You confirm your duties and your procedures, from the consignor, to the consignee, to the qualified person. You are all double-checking and making sure everything is in place. Everything is correctly identified, the vehicle is suitable, it's clean, and it's fit. You're going to check the quantities and the compatibility of the items, but it will also be checked here by the qualified person. You must make sure that you as a driver have the correct tech card. You will check this and the qualified person will also make sure that it is correct, as well as your dangerous goods declaration documents. Remember, you must have one that is signed, but they will also make sure that they are made out for the load and supplied to you as a driver. Qualified person offloading requirements. The qualified person must make sure that the cargo is correct and undamaged, and there's no obvious spillage. The load is refused if in doubt as to whether goods can be offloaded without risk. The offloading operation does not proceed if considered unsafe. For bulk deliveries, there is sufficient space in the tanks or bins, and the flow can be stopped immediately in case of leakage. The vehicle is free from spillage after loading. This is all about the qualified person's offloading requirements. They need to make sure that everything is correct and undamaged, there's no spillage, and they are allowed to refuse the dangerous goods to be offloaded, if they can see it might be dangerous or pose a risk. Now, for part loads, they must make sure that if only a few items are taken from the vehicle when you're unloading, maybe you have 2 or 3 stops, that the remaining load is properly secured. The documents must also reflect the change in the load, and there must be no residue remains on the vehicle. So what they are saying is, once you unload a certain amount of dangerous goods, you don't leave with remains, or spillage, or any unwanted items on the vehicle. The placards remain on if vehicles cannot be certified clean. Remember, your placards will be on if you still have another stop on the way, and if the vehicle cannot be certified as clean. Let's go over what we have learned. We said a qualified person is the person who's trained to perform a specific task, and they are nominated by an operator, consignor, or consignee. They must make sure that the vehicle is correctly parked when loading or offloading. They must make sure the wheel chokes are in place for vehicles that have a mass of 3.5 tons or more. They must place the wheel chokes under the wheels on the non-steering axles, so in other words, at the back of the vehicle. Vehicle fire extinguishers must be placed where they are not obstructing the loading or unloading points. The fire extinguishers must not get in the way of unloading or loading dangerous goods. They must also make sure that when loading the dangerous goods, they are correctly identified, packaged, and labeled. They must make sure the vehicle is suitable for the current purpose and that it is clean and fit to load. They must also ensure that the correct quantity is loaded. The driver must make sure that they receive the dangerous goods tech card, which will be issued again by the qualified person, as well as the dangerous goods declaration, which will also be issued by the qualified person. The vehicle isn't allowed to proceed on its journey without the correct placards. The qualified person must also make sure that the goods are correct, they are not damaged, there are no obvious spill signs, or residue that's remaining. They must make sure that in both deliveries, there is sufficient space in tanks and bins, and that the flow can be stopped immediately in case of leakage. For part loads, meaning that you've offloaded dangerous goods at one point, and now there are still remaining dangerous goods, the documents must reflect the change in the load, and that no residue remains on the vehicle.